Penguin Random House Audio presents An Invisible Sign of My Own by Aimee Bender. Read for you by Kristen Sieh. For Suzanne and Karen. Numbers are friends for me, more or less. It doesn't mean the same to you, does it? 3,844. For you, it's just a 3 and an 8 and a 4 and a 4. But I say, hi, 62 squared. Mathematician Vim Klein. Prologue. So, there was this kingdom once, where everybody lived forever. They'd discovered the secret of eternal life, and because of that, there were no cemeteries, no hospitals, no funeral parlors, no books in the bookstore about death and grieving. Instead, the bookstore was full of pamphlets about how to be a righteous citizen without fear of an afterlife. The problem was that because of this life spurt, the kingdom was very crowded. The women kept having more and more babies, and the babies had no place to sleep because of the 14 great-great-grandmothers and great-great-grandfathers that were crowding up all the bedrooms. All the old people were getting older and older, and there was no respect for elders because the elders were just like the youngers. There wasn't really a whole lot of difference anymore. Space was the real problem. So the king, getting crowded out of his own castle by the endless royal lineage, issued a decree. "Everybody in my kingdom," he said, "please pick one person in your family to die. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. If you don't want to do it, please leave. We will have a mass execution on Friday, and it will bring forth much more space, and everyone will forever honor those who gave up for the cause." So on Friday, the town congregated. A few folks had packed up their bags and left, but most stayed on the land they loved. The remaining families had spent the week choosing their offering. This wasn't as hard as might be expected. To be forever honored was appealing. And plus, there was an unspoken curiosity in the town about dying. It was sort of like going on a trip to an exotic place no one had ever been before, and just having to stay there for good. So that afternoon, each family that showed up in the town square had chosen one martyr to die for the cause of greater community space. There was a lot of weeping and praising going on. And finally, everyone pushed forward a volunteer. That is, all except one family. This family simply could not pick. First, the mother had said she would die, and then everyone in the family protested, and then the father said he would die, and everyone protested, and then the daughter said she would, and no one liked that idea, and the son offered, but that was no good either, and then the baby cried, and they thought it meant she would, but she was the baby, and that didn't make much sense at all. The whole family was arguing and crying and volunteering and pushing and shoving, and finally the mother moved forward and said to the king's executioner, "We cannot pick, so we would all like to die together." "Well, that's ridiculous," said the town executioner. "Then there will be none of you left. That spoils the whole point." The rest of the town was irritated as well. They didn't want the whole family gone. This family ran the bakery and was particularly adept at making a fine sausage roll, with ground-up meat and nutmeg inside, so delicious it tasted like dessert. The family took off to the sidelines to discuss. The rest of the families waved tearfully at their martyred volunteer, who each waved back, hands shaking with goodwill and terror. Finally, the difficult family stepped forward. "Well," said the father, "how about this? We would like to offer a piece of each of us. With all these pieces combined, it will be as if one less person lived in town." The town executioner cocked his head. "Continue," he said, interested. The mother stood forward and said, "You may have my leg." The father said he'd gladly cut off an arm. The daughter said she'd remove her ear. The son said he'd cut off all his hair and perhaps a foot, too. They let the baby be. "We need a head," said the town executioner. "Fine," said the father. "I will also deliver my nose." This seemed to satisfy the executioner, so after all the other people were killed, the family was cut up and the pieces were laid out on the ground in their correct places to make a partial person, who was the sacrifice to the kingdom's population control. The town dispersed, disoriented, unsure how to mourn their losses. The Cut-Up family, after recovering, still made their sausage rolls, but no one could stand to buy them anymore because it was so disturbing to go into the store and see the noseless father with that strap around his face, or watch the legless mother hop in to ring up the cash register, or to have to shout the order at the daughter since she only had one ear left. The family, broke, was forced to leave. They moved to the next town, which wasn't so bad after all, and opened up a new business. And since no one there had ever seen them whole, here they accepted the family of pieces without a problem, and bought sausage rolls day after day. Each family member lived a long, long time, and only the baby, who was complete, contracted any disease. When she did, at age 20, they nursed her and nursed her until her leg fell off with gangrene, and then they had a party to celebrate her arrival. That's the story my father told me at bedtime on my 10th birthday. Part 1. 20. Chapter 1. On my 20th birthday, I bought myself an axe. This was the best gift I got in a decade. Before I saw it, shining on the wall of the hardware store like a lover made from steel and wood, I'd given up completely on the birthday celebration. On my 19th, my mother had kicked me out of the house. On my 18th, I had a party of 2 people, and after an hour, both claimed allergies and went home sneezing. On my 17th, I made myself a chocolate cake, but since I didn't really want to eat it, stirred bug poison in with the mix. It rose beautifully, the best ever. And when I took it out of the oven, a perfect brown dome, I just circled the pan for a few hours, breathing in that warm, buttery air. Some ants ate the crumbs on the counter and died. On my 16th, my aunt sent me a beautiful scarlet silk dress, which smelled and felt as delicate as the inside of a wrist. Stroking it in my lap, I sifted through the phone book, finally picking out the name of a woman who lived at an address with 16s in it. Then I mailed the dress to her. Red is not my color. On my 15th, 14th, 13th, 12th, and 11th birthdays, my mother and I went shopping. And each year, by the end, one of us was in tears of frustration because I didn't like anything, and I said I really didn't want anything except maybe a new math workbook. You had to send away for those. They came from a big number barn in the South. My mother shook her head. She refused flat out to buy me math supplies for my birthday. So finally, we just put the money in the bank instead. The year of my 10th birthday was when my father got sick, and that's when I started to quit. I'd always loved the sound of pianos. So I signed up for lessons and took them for 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 weeks, we had a recital. I wore a dress and played a minuet, and my 2 hands were doing 2 different things at the same time. And when it was over, I drank juice and got hugged, and the melody crooned inside my head. I walked my piano teacher to her car, and she smiled at me, proud. The sky clamped down. I lowered my voice. "Listen," I said, urgent. "You are never, ever to set foot near this house again." Her eyebrows pulled in, puzzled. "Mona?" she asked. "What?" "Thanks," I said, "but this is the end of the line." I told my mother it was too bad, wasn't it, that the one piano teacher was leaving our small town of no opportunity to become a rock star in the big city. Her eyes widened and she picked up the phone, and my heart started pounding. But to my huge relief, the piano teacher's machine picked up, and my mother's message was vague, something like, "Good luck and wow, and we wish you all the best." 3 weeks later, they ran into each other at the market. What they talked about, I have no idea. I took dance class 10 times, and on the afternoon of my first leap, donated my ballet shoes to charity. I had one boyfriend, and within 2 months had hardened into a statue in bed. I ran track like a shooting star, and shot myself straight out of orbit. I quit dessert to see if I could do it. Of course I could. I quit breathing one evening until my lungs overruled. I quit touching my skin, sleeping with both hands under the pillow. When
Sample complete. Ready to continue?